Welcome to the Valor Fire Training Podcast. We're glad you're here because this podcast is designed for you, the fire service community, to learn about tactics, training, and culture. In each episode, we'll sit down with influential firefighters to discuss hot topics and current events. Before we dive in, remember that you can find entertaining video versions of each episode along with more on our YouTube channel. Just search Valor Fire Training, subscribe, and hit the notification button to be alerted when new content is added. And now, here's your host, Dave Mellon. Hey everyone, this is Dave Mellon with Valor Fire Training. Thanks for joining us on our pre-recorded episode of the Valor Fire Training podcast show. I'm joined by Bobbyeckert. How is it going, dude?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bobby and I met at FDIC for the first time in person. I've always kind of watched your stuff and seen what you were doing. And so over a couple beers at one of the bars that's still open at FDIC, I was like, hey, man, I'd love to have you on the show. And you were gracious enough to oblige. So I appreciate it. For those of you that don't know Bobby or have heard one thing or the other, it's the fire service. So I'm sure we've all heard things. So Bobby's getting into his 21st year in the fire service, right around there, 2023, something like that. And he is a captain on Ladder Company 1 in Camden, New Jersey. So, Bobby, what can you tell everybody about you? Like, what's your shtick? What's your stance?
That's a loaded question, but no, I'm a student of the fire service. I love the fire service. It's basically my life. It's my hobby, my passion, my career, all wrapped up into one. It can be good or bad, depending who you're asked. Ask my wife, depending on what day of the week, and she'll tell you a different answer. But it's totally who I am. And, I started Eckert Fire Tactics about 3 years ago, kind of accidentally. And, we're just out there and we're growing and organically trying to make the fire service a better place.
Yeah, and you authored a book too, right? Or a couple?
I have two books, Tuesdays for Tactics, Volume 1 and 2. It's basically some of my Instagram posts jammed into a book, 52. I put 1 year's worth in each book. I'm going to do one more and take a break because self-publishing a book is absolutely a terrible task. But they're kind of small, and it's a picture and, a little write-up, and I made it small enough to fit right next to your toilet when you're in the bathroom.
That's awesome, man. So, and a lot of people, we were talking about this when I was on the show with Corley on his show. There are people that are instructors in the fire service that have the fire service is their life, right? And then there are other instructors where, it's a paycheck, but they like the fire service. And then there's people where it's just a paycheck. You are as far to that, fire is your life side of the spectrum. Just looking back kind of in your history, not that I was stalking you, I was kind of stalking you, but when I was going through and looking at your bio and kind of like looking on your Facebook, you have a long tradition in the fire service with you, your family. There's so much like stuff that goes about it, and just your story is amazing, right? So kind of where you got and the struggle that you went through personally. And so, I think it's, do you want to touch on that real quick? Like the fire service almost got you.
Sure, twice. My dad was a fireman. I actually growing up, I thought everybody's dad was a fireman. I didn't really know any different. When I was a kid, or my dad was a fireman, I used to work 6 night works. So, and then six day works, 6 night works, 3 days off. And like when I was a kid, Santa Claus brought my presents to the firehouse. I didn't know, I knew no different. And then, when I got older in school, I realized everybody's dad's a fireman. But yeah, I pursued the career. I definitely wanted to go a certain route. I went that route. I put all my eggs in one basket that worked out for me in the city of Camden. I was laid off in 2011, and I was laid off for about just a little bit over 8 months. And actually, some of my recruit class was laid off for a lot longer, almost 18 months. Due to cutbacks, and I lost a job there. I definitely lost the fire service, and I quickly found out every job I did, from bartending to banging nails, that firefighting was my only good trade.
Yeah.
So I found that out very quickly when I was laid off, and I had a lot of personal things going on in my life at that time. I got brought back on the job. I was able to go to the busiest suppression company in our city. I was there for just under 5 years, and I got promoted to the rank of captain. Was there for about 2.5 years, and I suffered a very serious injury that I almost not only lost my life, but lost the career that I loved too, and had to fight back to get that. But if you know me and you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. I don't know if that's ego, spite, or stubbornness, but that was
It's
my
probably
first
a little
question.
bit of all of it.
It probably is wrapped into one, and I'm sure you've heard the story a million times, through different people, like, when can I get back to the job? It literally was my first question when I regained consciousness and sight. I was blind, and I was having seizures and peeing my pants, the whole 9 yards. I was a mess. But, when I was able to get back to that was my first question, and that was my goal, to get back to, I wanted to go to working fire so bad. So I
Yeah.
got back, and, just a little over 4 months, which was, a lot of people were surprised, but again, I'm very stubborn when it comes to people telling me I can't do things.
Yeah, and I mean, being from Jersey, like I get this mental image of like you talking with the doctors and the doctors being like, "Hey, bro, listen, you need to just like slow it down," and you being like, "Nah, F you, I'm gonna go back to work like next Tuesday, I'm
It's
fine."
I'm from South Jersey, so it's a little different. We're not all Italian down here. We're a mix of Irish and German and Polish and everything. But yeah, it was yeah, my wife was pregnant at the time. She could probably tell the story better than me, but it was definitely, I had to literally crawl before I walked because I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
So it was a very humbling experience, to say the least. And I'm very gracious for everybody supporting me, and I'm very gracious for the city I work in. They literally gave me the best treatment money can afford, and it definitely helped the situation.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad, and I know that there are a lot of people in the fire service who have read your book, watched your videos, attended your training through Eckert Fire Tactics. Uh, you know, i- they're glad that you did what you did, and they're glad that you came back. And when things
Appreciate it.
seems like they were kind of working against you, it all worked out. So there are like 1,000 things that I was thinking about that I'm like, man, what do I want to talk to them about? Like what are the questions that I'll ask, and what rabbit holes do we want to go to? And I think the biggest thing, just knowing you and the way that you train and how you train people, I kind of wanted to dive into like the fire service, the history of training, kind of how we have done training and the scars that it has created, and how you are trying to fix it. Because you guys do some really amazing, unique things. And so I kind of wanted to pick your brain and find out kind of where you're at with it, where you think we need to improve, and how you try to avoid some of the pitfalls that we've all just kind of become standard with.
Sure. It's a great topic. I look forward to see where it goes, to be honest with you.
That's great. So lead us off. Like, tell us about your training coming into the fire service, and like how you kind of came up into it, and then what you decided you weren't going to do that way now.
So, I was very lucky when I got hired in well, first I was lucky all along, from when I started as a junior, even before that, from my father, who never pushed the job on me at all. But when I told him I was going to get involved in it, he definitely did show me and steer me, in certain ways. I've always found myself around really good people, and I don't know if that's by chance or by luck or whatever. And I've always been around people that have been able to show me, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent, if that makes sense to you. And then, when I got hired in the Camden Fire Department, I had a very, very, very good captain. I had a bunch of good captains at first. We rotated, our first year there, and all three rotations of the captains I learned a lot from. And it just kind of went from there. What I thought firefighting was to what I relearned when I went into the city, kind of changed things for me moving forward. And I realized that, the fast-paced nature of the job and needing to have a sense of realism when doing it. And then, I kind of always wanted to be a fire instructor, from going through Fire 1, Fire 2, taking all those classes. And, I got an opportunity to teach at a local fire academy. And I met a lot of great people, and, through students and other instructors. But, it was the programs we were teaching and trying to affect some change with them, and met with a lot of resistance, where kind of led me to where I'm at now.
That's awesome. And I think it's funny because you mentioned kind of going from the start of your fire service to getting into a busier department. And there are different views. And I've said this a lot in prior classes, and I say it a lot in my own career. Shit still burns the same, whether it's in Camden, New Jersey or Lawrence,
It doesn't
Kansas.
matter.
Right?
Doesn't
Like
matter.
it's a house is a house, a high rise is a high rise, a dump truck is a dump truck. I mean, there are certain things that are different tactics wise, and I know that, but yeah, I mean, it's funny that like you can look at a certain tactic, and I bring this up because we just had a working fire a couple weeks ago, and it was a cut up house. It had a divider in the attic space, so it was essentially two different houses. And we had a ton of pent up heat. And so I crawled over and just started breaking out windows. And, it was after the fire was knocked down. And man, you would have thought that I punted a puppy across a parking lot or something. Like these guys were just blown away that I was breaking out these windows. And they're like, man, why are you doing that? You could just open them. I'm like, no, dude, that's not
Can't
how
see,
this...
can't see, take the windows. But yeah, I get where people are coming from. There's so many. I think one of the biggest problems with, well, not problems, but things with fire training is there is a generational gap, an extreme generational gap, and there's so many people that subscribe to so many different thought processes, and sometimes you could have 3, 4, 5 thought processes within one department, and that's why people might be people laugh when I say this, but I'm a huge fan of the policy driven fire department, because the working fire policy literally states what you do, and if you follow the policy, you're doing good things. I'm very fortunate enough to have an extremely great working fire policy where I work, and if you look around to some of the fire departments that have see consistent fire duty that are good at it, I guarantee their working fire policy is supportive of their efforts on the fire ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about fighting fire with policies, that is at least in my area, there are departments that do it, and then there's departments where there is no policy. I mean, the policy is, put water on the fire, and that's it. It's like 2 lines. It's
Yep.
it's up to interpretation.
100%. And the fire service is so reactive to the point where somebody actually has to get killed and lose their life for us to make it affect some type of change, whether it's good, bad, or different. It's change, and you always think of what could have been set in place before to avoid that tragedy, or to make sure that something positive happens. And sadly, I don't think I think the type of people the fire service bring in, I don't think it'll ever change, because I always say this: nobody hates firemen more than other firemen. We hate each other. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how much we hate each other. I mean, a police officer pulls somebody over doing a 26 and a 25, and the other cops are high-fiving them. Meanwhile, a firefighter, does something very small and mundane that wasn't another firefighter didn't like, and you're out there trying to ruin that guy's career. It's absolutely crazy, and I think until that culture changes, you're not going to change a lot of things within the fire service.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So when we talk about training, and you mentioned realistic training and trying to make it as applicable to the actual task that you're doing as possible, like where do you think we fail? Where do you think we drop the ball on training?
I think it starts at Fire One. If you read the Fire One books, they're absolutely atrocious. The material in them is not factual, extremely unfactual. I've called out IFSTA multiple times. I'll call them out here. In their building instruction chapter alone, there's multiple deficiencies with pictures with deficiencies in it, and to the point where I've emailed them, and I've had people tell me from IFSTA tell me I'm wrong. And that's, for example, in their building instruction chapter, they depict a type 2 non-combustible and say it's a type 3 ordinary. That you can be more different with your tactics in those 2 types of buildings, and I think it sets everybody up in the fire ground for failure. And I think the information is bad in the books. And I also think the programs are written bad. I think they weigh heavily on JPRs and checking boxes. In New Jersey alone, the hazmat from when I went to now is the hazmat hours versus anything else. I always ask somebody in New Jersey how their ceiling pulling module was in Fire One, and they said didn't have one. That's crazy to me, because the first thing you do when you knock down a room of fire is start hooking the goddamn ceiling. So, you're not teaching that at the Fire One level, but yet you have a kid who's 18, 19, and you want to complain doesn't have any mechanical ability. You had a chance to teach him at Fire One. Then you put him in a fire, and he's riding a hook position. The room gets knocked down a fire. Somebody starts hooking, he goes to hook the ceiling, he doesn't know what he's doing. And, poor John Smith, who doesn't know what he's doing, we're bashing him the rest of his career because he doesn't know, but he wasn't shown properly. And, it was the frustration of teaching Fire One, knowing that it could be taught so much better. And it's one thing, hey man, if this is the book and we got to go through this and you got to know this for the test, fine. Okay, here's this, but here's how you really do it. Let me show you how to really do it. And this isn't a JPR, this isn't on a test, but this is what happens in the street. We can't get around the book shit, and you got to figure out a way. And I'm not talking bad on all fire academies. There are many fire academies out there in the United States of America that recognize that this is an issue and do what I just said. They teach to the test and they teach to the street, but there's a lot of academies that don't also. And there's a huge gap in fire training, and people want realism. Your first working fire is your working fire, but the first time you're in a fire shouldn't be at a working fire. It should be in fire training. You should be in a live fire situation. And because of people not following 1403 or NFPA 1403, or doing things that are a little cavalier with some of their props and things and hurting people, it causes people like me, or they're out there trying to actually do live fire training, to get creative to make sure it's done properly. And we follow 1403 to a T, sometimes overkill, but we're also insured. And we have the insurance for live fire training, which wasn't easy to get, by the way, but we got it.
Yeah. No, and for anybody that has not tried to get insurance for a fire training company, it is almost impossible. Like, it is so incredibly hard when you're talking to the insurance company and they're like, so what exactly do you guys do? Well, we start fires and we put students in them. And they're like, well, so like outside, like fire extinguisher training? I'm like, no, like putting people inside of a burning building. And they're like, please hold. So it was
a task, but there was a void when I was hurt. I saw the void. I felt the void. I felt it more than hear it, just from talking to people. And, it was go time. We got to do this. And we started.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned JPRs, and I laugh because there is a JPR on how to answer the phone in some of the fire texts, and it's like, I don't care if they know how to answer the phone. I can show them that, right? But I can't take them in a live fire, the first day and have them not have any idea how to actually flow a nozzle to put a fire out and just go. Psh, 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 psh.
It's I think for some of firefighting or fire training, it's become like certification, right? I know where my certifications are located in my house right now. I know where they're at. I probably haven't looked at them in a year because I probably got something a year ago to put in them, and that's where they sit. They don't really do me any good unless maybe I retire and go for another job or something like that. But, what we do is not about the certification. It's about the experience and the learning and, challenging yourself mentally, mostly mentally and physically, but mostly mentally. And, I think it's where fire training fails. It's, people think it's physical. And I think firefighting is so much more mental than it is physical. It's not even funny how much mental it is. You're totally thinking from the time that you receive the alarm until you're back to the firehouse.
Yeah. Well, and we were having this discussion. This has been probably 5 or 6 months ago. I was talking to somebody and we were talking about aptitude tests. And during the conversation, we kind of stopped and looked at each other. And I know that there's still departments that are doing aptitude tests prior to, even prior to like the interviews to get hired. But it used to be when you and I, because you got in 96, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got into 96, I got into 98. So around the same time, you had a mechanical aptitude test, and you came in and it was, the gear goes this way and the gear goes this way. Which way is this gear going to go? If you have a conveyor belt and it's going this way, how is it going to go? If the truck's driving north and then it turns left, which direction is it going to go? There were all the basic knowledge things that you kind of had to understand in order to be able to learn how to use a chainsaw. But then when I got into the fire service, like one of the first lessons, all we did all night was take chainsaws apart, put them back together, and start them. And it was just repetitive to where I couldn't not know how to use a chainsaw. And I had never run a chainsaw before. I'd never touched a chainsaw in my life until that night. And by the end of the night, I was like, okay, cool, I got it.
Well, it's funny you say that because we do a saw station in our Taking to the Streets, our 16 skill stations, and you have to have Fire 1 to participate. And I would say well over 50% of the students have never even touched a saw, never even touched one because it's not taught in Fire 1. It's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. But yet all these guys that are my age, I'm rounding 40 and a little bit older, they want to talk about it. they want to talk about mechanical aptitude. There's your chance to teach it.
Yeah.
I wasn't born with mechanical aptitude, and I'm novice at best, but I was taught on the job. And if you're not taking the time to show somebody, what are you passing on? You could take fire training from the academy level to the company level to the department level, to the national level, however you want to skin it. But it starts with the people that are giving the information, and are they willing to give it the right way?
Yeah, no, I agree. So with you guys specifically, and I want you to touch on kind of how you guys do stuff. So this taking it to the streets thing, right? It was a cool concept. It was a catchy name. When I first saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like taking it to the streets. Sounds great. And then I saw the videos of the fire training that was coming out of your classes, and I was like, holy shit. I mean, I started sending it to people. I'm like, are you seeing this? Like, do you see this ceiling prop that they built to pull the ceiling? There were so many things. So kind of walk us through like how that developed and what it has turned into.
So the ceiling pulling prop itself was another instructor of mine, one of my lead instructors, Victor Farinelli. We taught Fire 1 together for a long time. And Vic and I would sit there after teaching over beers, just trying to figure out a way for these kids to learn how to pull a goddamn ceiling. Like, how can we do this? And then, I was able to make a horrible drawing on a piece of paper, like terrible drawing on a piece of paper. And I texted it over to Tucker, the first two fabs, and was like, yo, man, what do you think of this? And he's like, you're not an artist. I'm like, no shit. So, but, that's kind of how it we prototyped it here and there, but we have it down. And, through some more thought, we were to put fire over it, and then it's evolved into a knee wall thing. We got a knee wall and a ceiling pulling. And yeah, but taking the streets was something I've always wanted to do for a long time. I'm a journaler. I don't know if that makes me weird or not, but I've always kind of kept notes, good, bad, or indifferent. And
wait, when you say journal, like, do you mean like the one with the little lock on the front, or just like a book?
No. Like I got notebooks, and I write a lot of shit down.
All right, if you had the key thing, that would be weird.
No. I mean, no offense if anybody does that. It's just that's not me. I write a lot of things down. I don't write the list of things I'm supposed to do at home down, but I write things down for the fire service. Maybe what happened at work, something I want to learn more on, a name, a term, and I want to research it. But I've written a lot of things down, and when I decided to take this to the hands-on level, I dug out my notebooks and just kind of started building stations. And then with my staff, who are amazing, I mean, really amazing. They're so amazing. Not one ego on my staff, which is great. They're able to take my my mind and help me make it applicable out there through our VES Funhouse, our ceiling pulling prop, our roof prop, which you're literally standing over a live fire the entire time you're cutting a flat roof, a peak roof, and a metal roof. And our new thing which I'm very proud of, with our partnership with FLIR thermal imaging camera, and one of our instructors, Jason Leone, we were able to develop the FLIPS program, which is, you're seeing, you're going into a room on fire, you're seeing the fire go from incipient to free burn to flash over to roll over to decay. You're seeing the hose stream go on the fire and seeing the room actually gets, it's called flipping the room because the room gets hotter before it gets cooler. And you're seeing that through the thermal imaging camera, through the temperatures. You're learning what good heat is, bad heat, survivability, things like that. Our firefighter survival station has evolved to where we trap you in a burning room. We trap you with 2 instructors in there, nothing crazy, but we force you to work the problem. And you're getting hooked on a belay without even you knowing it, and you're getting sent out of a window head first and doing a ladder bailout. So, and feedback on the just watching the people trapped. Everybody goes to their radio first, which is very surprising to me. Nobody ever goes to figure out what's going on. They always go to their radio, which is interesting to me because when I started, we didn't have radios. Not everybody had radios. So, I guess it's one of the things being taught.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that. So the chief at my career department, Tim Whittam, he teaches at FRI, and he did a class called Anatomy of the Nearmiss. And it was actually a fire that I was involved in like 3 months after I got hired on this department. And it was from the outside, it looked like ordinary, wood construction. I shouldn't say ordinary because I know the structure gurus are going to bust my balls for that.
Type 3 is ordinary. Yeah, I'll break your balls.
Yeah, so it looked like wood frame, right? And so when we went inside, things weren't going so hot. And I won't give away the whole story, but the bottom line is me and another guy had to bail out of a window. And, we never called a Mayday. I mean, we came out, and when we got outside, I called and said, hey, just to let you know, we just came out the window. We're fine. We're on the alpha side. And so afterwards, I thought I was going to get written up. Like, my chief pulled me in the office, and I'm like, oh, man. I was like, Chief, before you say anything, I know the policy says that I'm supposed to call Mayday immediately. Like, I went through the whole spiel, right? And he was like, no. He's like, I brought you in here because I want to find out why. Why didn't you call a Mayday? And I'm like, because honestly, I felt like we should be spending our time trying to get the F out instead of blabbing on the radio. And I said, if I was deep inside of like a commercial structure, yeah, it's going to take more time and it's going to take more people. I'm going to call on the radio, but I know I'm in a 25 by 25 foot box at the time. That was kind of the area of the house that we were in. I'm like, I know I can find a way out. But when it started rolling over our heads and it started going south real quick, I didn't even want to call on the radio. And so I think you're right. Like, for the people of our generation where we didn't grow up with everybody having a radio, it's not a normal, common thought process. For anybody that is after, or the newer firefighters, that's all that's drilled in their head is, lunar, Mayday, Mayday, lunar.
And there's nothing wrong with calling one, and we show you how to properly call one.
Sure.
But the basis of the station is to show you how to work yourself out of being trapped. Trap might mean something different to everybody. So, we go over a Mayday, we go over an urgent, we go over, the nomenclature and the information you need to give to the, incident commander and, things of that nature. But, every station that's built has evolved greatly every time we've done it. I mean, we're up to in March. Well, we're going to do one in November. It'll probably, I think it's our 9th one, honestly, now. And, we do 90 firefighters and, 16 skill stations. It's an undertaking, and all the equipment we build our own props, so all the material and stuff it's why the price tag's a little higher than most classes because of the material. But you're definitely fighting a lot of fires. We did do an acquired structure. We can do acquired structure. We burned a school in Pennsylvania last February, and every student that was at that weekend fought 63 working fires. Literally every student fought 63 working fires. So, we're putting you through the paces, but in a good way, if that makes sense. It's there is a little bit of downtime. You're not go. You do it, but we also do it it's so realistic. Not only the props, but you're going in with 2-3 guys at the most, which is most people's operational reality. But like when you're searching, we show you how to search alone. All right. It might not be popular for your chief or other people to hear that, but we show you how to do it because, that might be your operational reality. We show you how to cut a hole alone. We show you how to operate a hose line alone. We show you how to troubleshoot your self-contained breathing apparatus alone. We show you how to do a lot of things with one firefighter because that's a lot of people's operational reality. Even in the city I work in, I got 30 dudes coming to work and fire. I do a lot of things alone. So, you need to understand that.
No, absolutely. Well, and you brought up the money thing, and I just want to touch on that because we've done a couple shows where we've talked about conferences or classes, and you talked about how your class has a little bit of a higher price tag. I've never seen anything out of you guys or several of the other instructors that are trying to bring that realistic front to the fire service that was like completely outrageous, right? Like, I think the fire service, it's so crazy to me that the fire service and EMS and law enforcement, well, not even law enforcement, because they'll send people to all sorts of crazy ass training.
Yeah, they got money out. They got money out the yin yang. Those dudes, yeah.
Yeah, and so but like fire department, it's like, oh man, that class is like $250. And the Chiefs are like, oh, we can't send anybody because that's $250. Now, I understand, and I'm sure you're a lot like us. Like, if a department calls and says my total operating cost for the whole year is $5,000, that's a different story. But it's so crazy to me where it's like,
we keep it to five. We had it at about 650. I brought it back down to 575. I was able to get some metal, whatever. But here's the one thing we do is food's included, and food's included for this reason. If I break you for lunch, and you got to get your food. I've lost you for the day. I have my wife, Kate, and Marlene that work for me. They have lunch set up for you. All you got to do is walk over and get it, and then we're back at it. So all the food's included. All the material, again, we build every single one of our props. Our roof prop, we rebuild it every time. It's not mobile. We don't take it apart. It's rebuilt every time a certain way. There's a cock loft in it. It's built a certain way. So, it's like a mobile.
Yeah, the ability for you guys to do it. And like I said, if anybody hasn't seen this, go to your, I would tell people, like, go to Eckert Fire Tactics on.
Check out our Facebook. I'm Eckert_335 on Instagram. I can't. Listen, to the life of me, I can't figure out Facebook. I try my best, but Instagram's so easy, so I just go Instagram. But yeah, check us out, man. Our YouTube, I try to put as much video out there as possible. You're gonna see better video. I just got a bunch of GoPros, so we have like 3 GoPros now. So
dude, that's awesome.
we're gonna be able to put that out there after the Long Island one, which is there's spots available in that one as well.
Yeah, but if anybody's on the fence, I'm telling you, go watch the videos and see what they're teaching and see how they're teaching it, and I guarantee you won't be on the fence. So when we talk about, like, you're a captain on a ladder company in Camden, so you spend some time on an engine, and now you're on a ladder.
I did.
Like
5 years in an engine.
Yeah, and do you like the ladder or the engine better?
To each his own. I don't not like either. There's really nothing like being first due. So just on first due, I'm happy.
Absolutely. So when you talk about, like, you being a captain and looking at your crew members, whether they're, probationary coming in or they've been there for a while, what are the things that you look for in them as far as their training and how they were brought into the fire service? Like, what types of things do you want out of your crews? And if it's not there, how do you train them?
I think I want everybody on the same page. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm striving for right now, because I'm recently transferred. So I work tomorrow, but you're going to see this after I've worked. So the day I work, tomorrow I'm going to work on some things to try to get everybody on the same page. And not that they're not, but it's more just making sure I'm on the same page as them, they're on the same page as me, type thing. But I think it's training on what we do every day. So the working fire policy we're going to work on, what our job is, whether it's high rise, residential, whatever. On top of fires, we do, gas leaks, elevator runs, some minor technical rescue if the rescue is not available. So, what our job encompasses, I try to train on. We have a training chief who puts out monthly training, which is good. It's really good training. So, you can follow the monthly training, which you should, and everybody has to. But on top of that, you can add your own flavor in there, which I usually do. And when I was in the engine, we were on Camden is very lucky where we don't run EMS unless it's a CPR call. So I actually, once a month, well, not once a month, once every 2 or 3 months, we work on CPR because we do it. So, I just try to do what we do because that's our job. So we want to be able to give the highest quality when we're out there. But, trying to get everybody on the same page and learn everybody, I think is the best thing you can do as a company officer. And, the best advice I can give a company officer is it's not your company, it's theirs. So, all you do is run the siren, hit the radio, and do the reports. So that, you're only as strong as them. So, treat them like it's their company, and I think things will go your way.
Dude, you had me at you guys don't run medicals. Like that was bro, I'm still rotating back and forth between the truck or the engine or the medic unit. And so it's like, I'm just like, man, those days that you're on the medic unit and you're like, why? God, why? Why did you do this to me? But
yeah, I don't do it. No, it's, listen, I don't like to brag about it. I keep it DL because I know it's a sensitive topic for some people, but yeah, it just, like, I want to get my guys on the same page. I think that's my biggest goal. And and respect that. Respect what the job is and the mission, and respect the guys too, their time. And, ask them what they want to train on. I already know what I talked to a guy last tour. I said, what do you want to train on next tour? He's like this. I'm like, all right, I'm already set up to do it. I'm ready to go. I got a whole thing ready to go for tomorrow.
Yeah.
It'll be less than 45 minutes. We'll be right. We will have 45 minutes worth of training, and everybody will be really good. So.
Yeah. And I think people, like, when they think of training, like even at the company level, they envision this, like, oh my God, we got to set up props and we got to do this, or we got to get a car for extrication training. Like, we've gone to medical calls, we've gone to medical runs, and it's a refusal or, something where we're not going to transport, but we walk back out and it's like, hey, look at where these cars are parked. And like, how would you get extrication tools in here if this car was on its top? Or, there's so many things that you can do at the company level that are just short little 5, 10, 30, 40-minute things. And it works for everybody. And then they walk away smarter,
I agree. I think too, in informal training, like, we smoke cigars at nighttime. So I think like when everybody's circled up and you maybe like, I don't know, you don't have to throw out like a full scenario out there, but like you said, like, hey, think of this. And I think hearing everybody's opinion, you can kind of gauge where everybody's at. And I think it goes for a lot of really good conversation. And, especially these young kids that are in their 20s, they rely heavily on social media for their information. And, I would be remiss to not bring it up because I run a social media page. But, a lot of guys will come to me with, hey, I saw this. What do you think of this? Or, hey, can we try this? And yeah, let's try it. Let's I'm down. I'm never not going to try to, a new idea or, see if it works, or, if I know it doesn't work, let's show them that it doesn't work. It's, if your guys are excited or, have an idea, let them run with it. There's nothing wrong with it, especially the young guys.
Bro, I can't tell you how many times, like, my Chiefs hate me. I know they do. I mean, we have good relationships, most of them, but like there are Chiefs that I work for that are like, dude, again, we're trying something different again. And I'm like, yeah, one of the guys came to me and said, hey, Cap, what do you think about this? Or, hey, what do you think about that? And I'm like, hey, if you guys want a world, let's give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we can put it back the other way. And we're always respectful. Like, we'll change stuff. And then as soon as we're done, when we get done with it, we'll put it back the way it was, because we don't want the next crew being pissed off at us.
Sure. I mean, we flat pack everything in the city of Camden, and it works very well for us. And I can say with confidence that I can pull my flat pack as fast as anybody can pull their Minuteman or trifold, because we've trained on it. But that's what works for us. And we've tried other hose lays, and it's great. Like, but I always say, like, the Minuteman, which I think is a fantastic load, and I wish we could pack it and work. But when I leave work and the next tour doesn't pack it the right way, the Minuteman is useless.
Yeah,
you can't mess up a flat pack. It's either going to come off or it's not. So, it's one of the things. Focus on what you have and how you can make it work for you. Don't focus on what you don't have. That's when your attitude and demeanor for the job start to be affected.
Yeah, bro. So I got to tell you this. So, like, my standard thing in my career department, we switched to the Minuteman, and we have two, dual or two sides. So we have one going one way, we have one going the other way. And it was like routine for me to come in after my 4 days off, and I'd walk in, I'd grab my cup of coffee in the morning, I'd go out to the rig to check it. And as I walk by the crosslays, I'd look up and be like, and I'd pull it out and we'd repack it, you know what I mean? And so like here within the last 6 months, it was probably like 6 months to a year, I distinctly remember walking into the station, and I was walking by with my cup of coffee, and I looked over and I kind of went like that, and I was like, oh my God, it's right. Like, it was put back exactly the way it was supposed to. And from that point on, we haven't had any issues. But you're right. I mean, it's great to be able to try stuff. And if it doesn't work, you guys stick with what works. So what do you guys run there as far as on your engines, you run flat loads? You guys have smooth bores, fogs? I mean, what's your
we have our first due line for working fire is a 1516 smooth bore. And then it's reinforced or backed up by an automatic fog nozzle. So we do a little bit of both. But it's we have task force tips. So our fog nozzles, and they get corroded, and task force tips and optical illusion. Even if it's messed up,
it looks great,
very nice. Yeah, but it's not flowing the right GPM. So. Hopefully in the near future we can start phasing them out. Hopefully, but that's what we do. But it's 1516 smooth bore It works. It works out. Puts out a lot of fire if you know how to use it. Yeah, it's it's 180 gallons a minute, but it depends on the user. It depends on the user. I've seen firefighters. One firefighter put out a lot of fire with an 1.75 inch smoothbore, and I've seen firefighters not put out a lot of fire with an 1.75 inch smoothbore. It
Right.
truly depends on the user.
Yeah, and that was I think it was at FDIC. It was right after I talked to you. I can't remember who I was talking to. Um, but we were having the discussion about they had recently made the switch to all smoothbore except for their bumper line. And it was a training issue. They had to kind of get people in the mindset because they had the option of having it before. It was a break apart, they could break off the tip. Well, then they just standardized it across the board. And he said, like, we had a fire a couple months ago, and this kid was doing a good job. Like, he pulled the line, he flaked it right. Everything was great. Well, we went inside, and the fire just wasn't going out. And they're like, man, what is going on? And literally, I was talking to the company officer, but he goes, as he does this 360, he's watching, and the guys are yelling, like, hey, the fire's not going down. We might need to back this up. And he comes around the back, and he's shooting it out of a bay window. Like, he wasn't moving the nozzle. He was just opening the line and just holding it there. Well, it was all going out the back of the house.
Yeah, you need to move the line. But I hope you have a combination or a fog nozzle on your engine, because if you have a car fire, a trash fire, a rubbish fire, and you need that, because if something goes wrong, you can go all the way to the left and have a nice power cone to protect yourself. But yeah, it's I think that the Elkhart XD solved any argument in the world with between combination and smoothbore, because the XD, I've seen it with my own two eyes, can put out a ton of fire.
Absolutely.
But again, it's totally up to the nozzleman and how the nozzle firefighter is set, their prowess, their demeanor, and their motion and movement.
Yeah. So what do you think? And I want to pick your brain on this. So, as we talk about, different types of appliances, different types of nozzles, different types of hose, different tactics. What have you noticed as far as the type of conferences and the classes being offered, as far as the hands-on stuff over the years? Do you feel like we have moved in the right direction, or do you feel like we've just kind of become stagnant? Like, I've noticed, like, you're taking it to the streets. The Oklahoma City Fools are doing a conference where it's just all scenario-based everything. And so we're starting to see a lot more conferences doing that type of thing, where instead of just, nozzle operations or hose operations, which are important, I'm not saying that they're not, but they're like, hey, show up for a day of live fire, and it's going to be all scenario based. So you're going to pull up on a rig and have fire blowing out of 3 windows, and we're going to teach you how to fight fire. Do you find that more beneficial than, just repetitively going through step 1, step 2, step 3, like you did in Fire 1?
Yeah, I think so. I think the small pop-up conferences have really evolved from even when I was, coming up. When I was coming up, you either had to like pick a track, like, oh, you got to pick engine track or truck track. You really couldn't do both. And I think the smaller conferences allow you to do both, and kind of get a various different types of opinions, and see different types of tactics that are used. With positive outcomes throughout the U.S. And I think that's good, the conferences, and I think scenario-based things are good, but it's one of my biggest pet peeves is a lot of things are only talked about for certain types of building construction. Just because it works in Type 5 doesn't mean it works in Type 2. So I think when you're going through these scenarios, you really got to hit on, okay, this is this type of building construction. It might not work in this type of building construction, if that makes sense to you. You got to understand what type of building you're fighting the fire in to make sure your tactics are applicable. Because all 5 types of building construction, the only ones that are very same are 3 and 5. The rest are very different.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. Like, when we look at our training scars, a lot of them, when I got into the fire service, our training center that I did all my fire training in, it was a gigantic brick building, but it had a residential floor, it had a commercial floor, it had a floor that was set up like an office building. We had the base floor was set up like a garage. And so you could, we're talking like an 80 by 75, garage. And so you could divide it up and have all sorts of different layouts. But when was the last time somebody did fire attack in a cubicle? You know what I mean? Like that's not something that you normally
It's
do, and your
true.
tactics from a house aren't going to work like they do in an office building with cubicles.
It's true, and it's one of the things. Our on day one of taking the streets, your engine program is stretching through obstacles, and we literally put in more realistic obstacles that you'll face through all 5 types of building construction to get to the seat of the fire. It's actually frustrating. You hear guys scream "MFer" like multiple times, and it's awesome because they're dropping back and having to work through the problem. But their biggest problem is that there's fire coming at them down the hallway. It's not, they can't see, and there's fire coming at them. The heat is growing, and they realize that they need to get to the seat of the fire to put wood on the fire. And I think that's one of the best things about that station is that it gives that sense of urgency to get that wood on the fire, but not just where you're at, to get to the seat of the fire and put wood on the fire, in the right place. But we really, it's nothing crazy. I'm telling you, it's not like we put like a Volkswagen in there and make you go around it. It's all stuff that, my instructors and myself have faced throughout our career. I would describe taking the streets as 16 skill stations that every one of myself and instructors have made a mistake on a fire and are giving it to you in the skill station, and stretching through the obstacles is one of them. I'm telling you right now, if you come to the class, you're not going to fall through a hinged floor that's on dowels. You're going to fall through a floor. You're literally going to fall through a floor. You're going to plunge your leg, maybe one, maybe two. I don't know. It depends how you enter what we built. You're going to go through the floor, and I don't know what to tell you. In firefighting, you plunge your leg through floors. It happens, and the fire might not even be below you. It just might be, shitty construction or workmanship or whatever. But, it's that sense of, oh shit, I have an obstacle. How do I overcome it? And fire's ahead of me, and I have the thing to put the fire out in my hand. What do I do? Again, mental thinking.
Well, and I love, I talk a lot about the OODA Loop, right? Like that's my favorite thing to talk about is the OODA Loop when it comes to training. And so, yeah, I mean, when you talk about your, and I'll kind of jump off your deal, but the leg going through the floor, right? Like a fire attack crew going down a hallway with 1 or 2 people, and all of a sudden the leg goes through. If they have fire coming towards them, your normal instinct would be screw the nozzle, I'm going to fall through the floor, right? And so I love the fact that you guys are teaching people like, here's how you're going to overcome it, but you still have to fight the fire. Like you still have to keep the fire in check. Otherwise,
that fire out, the problem's going to go away. I like putting people in panic because, I've taken multiple rip class. When we were coming up, rip was the thing. I sat through so many rip programs, and everybody's like, don't panic. Well, I'm a human being. I'm going to panic. There's no doubt about it. So I think the more you can put people in panic, and there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. A way to put somebody in panic is not like, put them in a tunnel and make them claustrophobic or, scream at them things. Put them in a realistic scenario where maybe that, their leg's stuck, or maybe they can't go through point A and they got to go through point B. But if you're going to do fire training and you're going to put somebody in panic, do yourself a favor and make sure you have enough instructors right there, because something does happen, you're able to talk them through it. I think it is something to, and I'm not saying panic doesn't need to be trapped. Panic needs to be, oh shit, there's fire coming over my head and I can't get through this opening. What do I do? This is my tunnel vision setting to go to opening A. All right, dude, slow down, take a deep breath. If you got fire coming over your head, give it a couple shots, reposition, and where are you going to go? It's how you recover from panic is which I think sets you apart from everybody else, that's in a panic situation.
Absolutely. And I love your thought process because there's nothing as an instructor to me that is more awe-inspiring. I mean, just jaw-dropping when you're sitting there and you kind of, like you said, get down. And I'm real big on, and it depends on, what kind of mask you got, but now that they're kind of similar, the MSA and the Scott, dude, I grab that regulator and I'll pull them right up to my face. And I'm like, hey, listen, take a breath, calm down. Here's what we're going to do. And like when you see them start processing and coming up with a plan and they're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, cool. And then they do it. And the next time you put them in that situation and they don't stop, they just automatically go to plan B, plan C, plan D. Would you agree? That's like the best feeling in the world.
I love it. And, I think it's a testament to the fire service, in this generation, they can think their way out of problems. They just haven't been shown how to do it. And if you're a fire instructor or you want to be a fire instructor, don't be a fire instructor for yourself. Don't do that. You want to do it for the fire service and for the people you're teaching. You want to give them the best information. You want them to be better. You want to get feedback that hey, they were able to use it at a fire. But nobody learns from being yelled at or talked down to, or put in situations. I can't tell you how many people tell me they put me in a tunnel for SCBA. I've never been in a tunnel in a house fire in my life. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like, hey, we're cool putting these guys in a tunnel, or that kind of shit needs to stop. There's nothing realistic about that. Put them in a situation where you wrap a wire around their cylinder. That's realistic. Something like that. But if you're going to trap somebody or put somebody in a situation where they have to fight to get out of it, make sure you have 2 instructors there. So if something does go wrong or they do panic, all right, hold on, man, we'll cut you out and take you out here. Especially if you're doing live fire, you have to, you got to respect it. You got to respect the person taking the class, because you were once that person as well.
Absolutely. And there was a situation when you were telling the story about the tube, it made me laugh. When I was going through fire school, there was a guy who was, the guy's probably a brain surgeon by now, right? Like, the guy was absolutely just amazing. And like, he didn't crack the book. He just knew, and he could just pick stuff up by doing it. And so he was an extremely, extremely good student. But when we were going through the tube, just like you did, he stopped at the end of the tube and he goes, I'm not going in there. And the instructor goes, no, you have to go in there. He's like, no, I just go around it, or I go on top of it, or I go on the side of it. He's like, I'm not going through this. And the instructor was like, no, you have to go through. And I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's going to get his ass kicked, right? And so he kind of argued with the instructor, and finally the instructor was like, fine, whatever. You want to die in a fire, blah, 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 blah. Well, then like 2 hours later, we're doing the wall breach evolution. And this guy, bigger dude, he busts out the sheetrock and he looks in there and he kind of goes and gets hung up and he gets on his back and just kicks out one of the studs. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I wouldn't crawl through that. Like, if I can break out a stud, I'm just going to break out a stud and then I can just walk through. So his mindset was, that was like the first time I had seen somebody have a mindset like that, where it was like, screw the establishment. I'm going to do what makes sense. And now, ironically, the instructors now have the props with the stud that collapses, or they have.
Yeah, and they should. I think in teaching Fire 1, when I went through it, I'd ask a lot of questions. I piss off a lot of instructors. I'm like, why do we do it this way? And they're like, well, we've always done it that way. I'm like, that's literally the worst answer ever, man. Like, this isn't reality at all. And what are you teaching these young firefighters? Or, if you taught Fire 1, you have the guy there who's in his 40s and he's like looking at you like, I've been around them a little bit. This doesn't seem. Yeah, dude, you're right. It's not, but hey, I got to check this JPR box off. So,
right. You have to hold ankles.
Yeah. Hold my ankle, please. Give me a break. It's, and I think it just comes from a change where, I think the academies, and I'm not talking bad on any academy out there, but I think a lot of the academies are putting themselves out of business with the product they're putting out.
Yeah. No, and I have seen firsthand, there are places that are doing in-house classes and they're just piecemealing it together with the JPRs. And then when people find out that they can go to another organization or a different agency and get better training, they opt to go do that. Even to the point where if it's free but it's crappy, they're like, I'd rather go pay money and actually get good training. And that's coming not only from the students, that's coming from administrations, chiefs.
I've seen it in the state of New Jersey where fire departments have opted to send, because you can do Class A, Class B buildings in New Jersey. I've seen people opt out of a Class B building and send their people to a Class A building to get that level of training, and that's great. That's great that their leadership recognizes that needs to be done. And I think it starts with the individual fire instructor, saying like, this isn't right. We need to add this level of real reality. But it goes back to the books. I just feel like these book companies are all about selling their book to the fire academies, and look how much that big the book is. It's a lot of money, man. It's thick, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I'm hoping that gets better. And I know we've after the last podcast that I put on, and I'll put it on this one as well. There are places that you can go to put your name in to be a reviewer.
You
You
can,
can
and
put in.
I've emailed and have done it. I would love to be part of the building instruction chapter of the IFSTA book. I would love that. I have great photos that would benefit them, but it's sometimes the ball's not in your court; it's in theirs.
Right.
That makes sense. You
Well, and
can
it's
do everything right, and this is people. I think some of the older generation, and I say older, maybe people 10 or 15 years older enough to understand why the subculture thrives in the fire service because of the misinformation and the bad information put out there, where somebody can literally go on their phone at their fingertips on a social media page and get the right information and have
right.
a video of experience at a fire, have it shown to you like, wow, this works.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had, and I want to ask you this question, then I'm going to give you some time to because I'm hoping it won't just be like a 2-sentence answer. But if you had a newer firefighter, and I don't say young or old, because just like you said, you could have that 40-year-old new person that is just getting into the fire service after being in a certain trade for 20, 30 years, whatever. So if you had a new firefighter and they were wanting to train, and they're seeking out that training, they want the knowledge, but they can't get on board because their administration won't let them, or they keep getting told like, we've done it this way forever. What would you tell that person? Because that is demotivating. Like, that's one of the most demotivating things ever. So what would you, from you to them, what would you do, or what would you tell them to kind of keep the faith? You know what I mean?
So I would say this, and I actually get the question sometimes through my DMs. I try to answer all my DMs. Sometimes it's harder than not, but I would say that start small with yourself. And if your administration doesn't support training, or your company officer or the guys in your firehouse are not into it, that's on them. Okay, because when you go to the fire, everybody's going to be involved in it, and you obviously want to be good at your job because you care. So you can start training on your own by going out to your rig, learning the equipment, learning how to use all the tools on your rig. Learn if you have portable ground ladders, take the ground ladders off, throw them, put them back. All right. If you have a saw, take it out, take it apart, learn how it starts, learn how to change the blades. If you have an SCBA, you do, okay, and everybody should know how to use their SCBA intimately. Put your gloves on, put it on. Go in zero visibility. Learn how to make yourself a better firefighter alone. It happens. Happens to a lot of people. I've been in a situation where I've had to have done it to myself. And when people see people training in the firehouse once, twice, 3 times, they're gonna get nosy, and they might come out. They might join it. They might not. They don't join. That's on them. But guess what? There is nothing you can't do yourself, especially in this age where there's a ton of information out there, where you can't learn something and visually see it and make it applicable in your fire station. And always start with your SCBA, man. Learn how to use that thing, troubleshoot it, and learn how to do everything when you can't see. It was your visibility and with your fire gloves on.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. And I've been switching back and forth between just you on the screen because honestly, yeah, nobody wants to look at this while you're like giving your sermon. You know what I mean? So, but no, I agree. And I had and old habits die young, right? Like, I learned a lot of things that I had to unlearn once I got further into my career. But I had a captain when I was a cadet, an explorer. And he used to make us, and it was so ridiculous. Like, and he had a reason for it, right? Like, he wanted us to like change out the batteries on a radio, and so we had to do it under zero visibility. And it was just minute tasks. And I'm like, man, this is dumb. Why are we doing this? And so fast forward like 10 years down my career, and no, I didn't have to change out my battery inside of a burning house, but I was on the back side of a house. My battery was dead on my portable. And I yelled at somebody and they threw me a battery, and I was like, oh shit. And it kind of came back to me, and I was like, okay, take it out of the pouch, do this, pop the battery off, put it in my pocket, put it back in. So even something as simple as that people would overtly be like, well, that's just dumb. When am I ever going to have to change my battery? Right. The SCBA that's going to save your life. And there's still people to this day that don't understand what that bypass does. They don't understand. They're just like, oh,
they don't understand. They don't understand how to wear the air pack.
Yeah.
They don't understand how to wear it properly. They don't understand how to wear it on their back, their waist, the whole 9 yards. It's mind-boggling, but it is what it is. So, if you get that new firefighter, I think, if you're a company officer and you get a new firefighter fresh out of firefighter one, I think the best thing you can do is break down their training and build it back up, see where the deficiencies are at and, work on them and treat. When I teach hands-on, I treat everybody like they don't know any of the information, and not in like a cocky
Right.
way. You just, you start small and build them up. And, I think that helps, but you have to expect, especially the company officer, that they don't know anything, and you have to show them everything. And I can tell you that there's a caveat to that. That could backfire on you if your delivery sucks. So you gotta have the right delivery when you do it. But I hate when I see people operating in training without fire gloves on, because you're not wearing non-fire gloves in a fire situation. And I get it. There hasn't been a holy grail of fire gloves. I like the MK1 Ultras now. Like, that's our flavor now. But, Firedex makes a good glove. There's gloves out there you can get that dexterity. But anyway, get your gloves, start doing things. Put yourself in zero visibility and start doing things. If you come to one of my weekends, my training weekends, all we are going to do is build confidence. Confidence. And on top of confidence, we're going to show you skill. And then you take that skill when you leave me for the weekend, you go back to your firehouse and you build on that skill, because I gave you the confidence to build on the skill, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, no, man, I love it. And that's the one thing. We just had a batch that graduated from a Fire One class that was locally held not too long ago. And you're right. I mean, there was just, the confidence wasn't there. They were unsure of themselves. They were second guessing themselves because they had only maybe done that skill once or twice. And it wasn't one of the 3 things out of 7,000 things that they had to be tested on. But they just, you're right. I mean, at first when they came back, watching them kind of function on a fire ground, and they weren't my people, so I wasn't really worried about it. But I watched as the company officer walked over and was like, all right, listen, we're going to go over this when we get back. And from that point forward, it was just nothing but the basics and building it, breaking it down, breaking them of whatever mold wasn't working, and then plugging the holes back and building them back up to where now these dudes are running around like that fire that I was talking about with the windows that I broke out. 2 new guys just jumped off a rig, grabbed a 1 3/4 line, went in, busted the door open, hung a left, and started fighting fire like they were
great.
Like
it's great to hear. But you got to understand, everything you do on the fire ground is a basic skill. Everything. Yeah. There's no such thing as advanced firefighting. There's nothing. It's all basic skills. It's everything you've learned from day one. The more experience you get, you can build off and build off and build off. You can build off through training. But then again, training is only going to take you so far. And training non-realistically is only going to take you so far. Training, in non-fire situations is only going to take you so far. I see people all the time when I get them and I put in real smoke, there's a panic because they've been used to a fucking smoke machine in training. White smoke versus real smoke is 2 totally different things. And all I see is dudes crawling with their heads down. All your blood's rushing your head. Keep your head up. Look straight. Look straight when you're crawling. You don't walk with your head down, do you? No. Just because you can't see doesn't mean you can't be painting a mental picture. It's, it's so many dumb things you can do at home to make yourself a better firefighter. Is like when you get up to paint in the middle of the night, leave the lights off. Yeah. Navigate your house with the lights off. Okay. If you have a mass confidence issue, bring your face piece home and walk around with it. Leave your gloves on. Take your trash out. Well, go to bed. Lay there for a little bit with it on your face. Stare at the dark ceiling. There's so many you can do every single solitary day, not in the firehouse, to make yourself a more effective firefighter in the fire ground. But again, I was sick. This is my life 24/7. So if you're wearing your face on your wife's yawning, I'm sorry.
No, but listen, bro. I got to be honest with you. Like, as you were talking about that, the reason why I had this like shit-eating grin on my face. I honestly, okay. So my son Aiden, who's 10, he wants to be a firefighter more than anything, and I haven't pushed it on him. Right? Like I'm like, hey, buddy, if you want to be a firefighter, that's great. I'm never going to make you do it.
My son's had no interest. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so like I have one son that doesn't, and I have one son that does. But like he asked me for a mask. He was like, Dad, can I have a mask? And he's 10 now. He probably was like 5 or 6. He goes, Dad, can I have a mask? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get you a mask. So I decontaminated it, made sure it didn't have any cancer shit on it. brought it home, and I gave it to him. And that kid wore that mask and crawled around for hours, hours on end. And so as he got a little bit older and he would come down to the station, we'd be doing like theatrical smoke training or whatever. And he's like, Dad, can I put on the air pack? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, let's try it on. And he was real worried with the pressure difference. He's like, is this going to blow my eyeballs out? I'm like, no, it'll be fine. And so he put it on and he popped the mask and he's breathing and he kind of looks at me like that reassurance, like he's waiting for it. I'm like, dude, you're fine. And so he didn't go in or anything, but he just had the mask on. And so, yeah, if my 10-year-old can figure out how to do it, because that kid can crawl around and do a search with a blindfold on like nobody's business, I guarantee you a new firefighter can pick it up. But they have to put the work in. And that's the problem is we aren't training our people that way. They either have to go get it on their own or they have to start when they're 10.
I get it. I mean, I run a fire training company that I get people that have to do it on their own. And I get people from all over America come to us. And, we are so thankful for the support. But dude writes me a check from his personal checking account. I have to make sure that we give him the best there absolutely is, right? And we try to. We make sure they leave with the skills that they wanted to get. And, multiple times people leave and, they'll give me a call. They want to Zoom a little more and learn about something. I have no problem doing that. And, I was doing this week for somebody with mass confidence. I don't have a problem going over mass confidence things with people. Firefighting is literally, especially if you didn't grow up in it, it's literally everything you were ever taught not to do.
Right.
You in a tight space, wear weird things, put stuff in your face or, encapsulate your body. So it can be a lot for somebody who's getting into it later in life. So, in that situation, I think you got to give everybody the level of respect that, hey, man, this dude's a little older. He didn't grow up in it. Okay, so we got to show him a different way. That's all. And everybody learns differently, too. You got to remember that.
Absolutely. So where do you see fire training going in the next 10 years? Like what aspect, like I was at FDIC and I saw a lot of like virtual reality stuff and they're trying to get into the market with, a lot of the augmented reality. Like where do you see fire training in 10 years compared to where it is right now?
I hope it doesn't go to virtual reality. I hope it gets back to its roots. I really do. I hope fire training gets back to how I learned and how the people before me learned through reality-based training. I think is the best way to give people what they need to make them effective in the street. I really do. And there's a time and a place for your hazmat DRs, and I'm obviously not going to be the guy to teach you that. But I just hope it gets back to its roots because this is a blue-collar trade, and it needs to be taught as such.
Yeah, and I'm going to dive away from the fire training for a second. I was just having a conversation with one of our local vendors. He came by, and their Draft Commander is a company that makes the mobile drafting trailer where it's got a 3,000 gallon tank, right? And so he was telling me this story about this Draft Commander training prop that they have when they go around and teach people how to do pump testing. They will take like the hydrant that's built in. You can actually cut flow off from the hydrant. Like you can make it a dead hydrant.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and so like as we were talking, I was like, so how much does one of those things cost? And he was like, it's like $80,000 or something crazy.
Of course it is.
Of course, it's like a trailer with a tank and a pump. So okay, but no, like we got to talking about it, and one of the cool things that we discussed, he was like, listen, if you guys are doing a pump ops class, he's like, we have a couple demo units that we use around the country. He's like, you let me know. And he's like, if you're doing a pump ops class, we'll bring that out and we will set it up to where you can have them hooked to a hydrant and have good flow. And then literally you just shut your hydrant down. I mean, you can create a catastrophic failure type situation, or you could just drop the pressure down to where they're not getting what they thought they were getting. And it gives them a place to shoot water if you don't want to, you're in a neighborhood that you don't want to flood everything. But it was so cool to listen. And that's the one thing that I've started seeing is a lot more of the vendors are jumping on board with the training that makes sense.
They are. It's I've seen it also with some of our partnerships. People have seen the shift in things, and they can get their product out there more through private fire training than they can, through other avenues of the fire service. Which is great. It absolutely is. I think I don't know if you're familiar with the Anderson Rescue multi loop.
Yeah.
Tim Anderson, who's a friend of mine out of Philadelphia, which is he lives 20 minutes from my house, but his multi loop strap's amazing. And through knowing Tim, if you kind of want to take in the streets, I have them for sale at cost on the table. But we use the multi loop strap. He literally gives me like 80 or whatever for the weekend. I sell them all out the first day because he uses it as a station. But
Right.
everybody should have one. Everybody should have one, and we're not making money off. We just want everybody to have one because it's a way to it's a way to visually see it, and they're like, holy shit, that thing's amazing, which it is. And again, I think every firefighter should have one at the Fire One level and carry it the rest of their career. But I agree with you. There is a way to get a lot of great products out there in firefighters' hands through fire training.
Yeah, and 10 years ago it wasn't like that. I mean, we started Valor Fire Training in 2015, and anything that you wanted to show, they wanted to have the rep there, right? It was like the rep had to be there, and the rep had to be the one to talk about the product, and the rep had to be the one. And now you look, and it's like the partnerships that you have, the partnerships that we've built with a lot of the manufacturers. The reps will call and be like, hey, do you need any material for what you're teaching? Sure, yeah, I could use this and this and this. Okay, cool. Do you need me to come out, or do you feel good with it? Yeah, we're good with it because we're going to go over these things. Okay, great. But those are the relationships that you build. But it's just so cool to see that they're embracing us as much as we've always embraced them.
I agree with you, and I think you got to kind of let your work speak for itself. It's not one of the things where I hate hearing myself talk, and I really do. So I'd rather just let what we're doing speak and let people see it and be like, okay, we're in. It's like, I take Elkhart, for example. I needed a Y. I texted Stretch, and there was a Y at my house 3 days later.
Right.
I never, he didn't even ask what it was for. I could be using it for a science project for my kid's school. He didn't care, but he knows we're using it. So it's one of the things where if you're taking care of them, they're going to take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what things are you like? I know you do the taking it to the streets, right? And you have the books. What's next on the horizon? Like, what's the next thing for Eckert Fire Tactics?
We do a lot of private fire department drill nights. That's we're fully mobile. We're fully mobile, fully insured, and we will bring the street to your firehouse. We will build something out in the parking lot. We'll go anywhere in the United States of America. We'll go anywhere in the world. Well, not right now. My passport's a little slow to do COVID. It's coming, but I don't think anything. I'm always thinking of things. I do a lot of trial and error. Anything I do put out there, I've tried it multiple times before I put it out there. It's one thing I can say to anybody who wants to do live fire. Make sure you've done it a couple times without any students to know how it's going to react before you put the product out there.
Yeah.
I do have one more book coming out. I'll do a volume 3. I've toyed with the idea of doing a building instruction book. I don't know. I have 4 kids, man, and from 12 to 3, yeah, and everybody's in between. So, right now I'm just going to focus on just our live fire and our hands-on training, and still doing lecturing. I lecture. I'll be in Wisconsin this weekend for the Brew City Fools. I'm going to meet Chief Hoff and be on the bill with him, which is, I can die now. You can kill me. I'm good.
That's cool.
So I'm really excited about that. But I like getting out there, man. So lecturing, hands-on. I don't think I'll ever slow down, and I'm always thinking of new things, but I don't have anything in my pocket that I'm looking to do. I'm really content at where I'm at right now, and I really hope that we can keep the pace up, and I hope 10, 15 years from now I'm still doing it. I really do. I love teaching firefighters, and I love meeting firefighters, and I just love being out there amongst the men and women. I really do.
Yeah, so that's I was talking to Dustin Martinez and Jonathan Brumley and a couple other guys at FDIC, and they were like, it was like, I think it was more of a joke than anything, but we were talking about like the quintessential, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I was like, man, I don't know where the hell I see myself in 10 years, but like Bill Gustin is my like compass. Like if I can make it to be where Bill Gustin has been around in the fire service for that long, and he is still just knocking it out. Like he shows up for conferences and just lectures for a couple hours, and the guy has such a passion for the fire service. And he's genuinely like the nicest dude ever, right? Like I've gotten to hang out with him a
Yeah.
couple times and talk to him, but like that's where I want to be at the end of my career.
Sure.
I want to be in it as long as Bill Gustin, and still just be happy as hell to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I like writing too. Jim McCormick has gave me the opportunity to write for FTTN's magazine
Yeah, I saw that.
multiple times now, and that has been just such an honor. I love being part of that publication. So I really do enjoy writing. It's kind of funny because I'm dyslexic, so it's kind of like an oxymoron there. But you know, as long as I'm able to keep doing it, I'm going to keep doing it. And as long as people support me, we will be out there. And I hopefully, again, I love the grind, I love the work, and I love the people.
I love it, man. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. I know we always have opportunities for like panel guests, and so hopefully you will be able to come back or willing to come back.
Yeah, let me know, man, whenever you need me.
Yeah, man, it was great. So for everybody that's wanting to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Best way, I would say you can email me, eckertfiretactics@gmail.com. Check out my Instagram is Eckert335. It's Eckert_35. Jeez, I'm screwing them both up. Eckert_335 is my Instagram. Instagram is my main area of business because it's easy. Facebook is Eckert Fire Tactics LLC, and EckertFireTactics.com is our website. If you go to our events page, my wife Bryn makes sure that shit is updated weekly. So if you're ever looking for an event, check it out. It's really user friendly. We're getting ready to drop some like an apparel line just to have people like some of the our shoes and tier attack shirts with a couple logos and stuff like that, or a couple designs. So we're gonna have some stock apparel. You can get our books on there, and yeah, man, check us out if you want hands-on. All of our lists there. If you want lectures, it's all on there. We're really easy to get a hold of. I usually answer every direct message or email I get to the point where my wife wants to kill me.
That's dude, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. I am so there's times at 11:30 at night and I'm sitting there texting somebody back or sending a message on the DM and she's like, "Go to sleep." I'm like, I can't.
Well, the worst when you're like when you're at some place and you're supposed to be there mentally but you're not.
Yeah, that's a common problem. So,
Sure
for those watching, thank you for joining us. I know this is going to be pre-recorded, so while you're watching this, we won't actually be doing this. This is going to be aired in a couple days.
We'll be doing something else.
Yeah, but no, we are Valor Fire Training is going to be at a couple different places coming up. We're going to be at the FSIO conference down in Oklahoma City, the Fire Service Instructor Conference. Then we're going to be going out for Bearers of the Oath in Georgia, and then we're going to be back in Oklahoma at the end of the month for the Oklahoma City Fools Conference. So
I hear Oklahoma is great. Like this is a good time of year to be there, like late October. Beautiful,
dude. It is fantastic. It's beautiful.
Jealous.
And honestly, like the training center, there's 2 training centers in Oklahoma City, and it's just amazing.
I've heard good things.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you guys are wanting to catch some conferences, there's that. You can catch Bobby at his events, and definitely check him out on social media and look at all the videos and stuff that he has to offer. So, Bobby, thanks again for joining us. Everybody out there,
thanks a lot, man.
Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, good.